Okay, so the only question I've gotten thus far has been from a student, and it says, "Hi, Master. I've been practicing question 5 recently, and it's going okay. I just don't understand the gearing part. I looked in the book, but it didn't really help. I was just wondering, could you help?" Okay, so I've just picked a question, literally at random. It's actually the most recent question that I have access to in my papers, which is 2017's question 5. Okay, so it's JB PLC, okay, a health food manufacturer. And as I said, specifically related to gearing, okay? So, and this is in part B. So part B, already there's part of gearing you will have done, which is interest cover. You can see it there, A part 5. You were asked to calculate interest cover, which is a part of gearing. A number of students make the mistake of putting interest cover, let's say, in investment policy or a dividend policy and different things. Very few actually put it in the correct part. But if you look at your book, page 447, under gearing ratios, there's interest cover. So a lot of people can work out interest cover and do it well, but when it's put in under the wrong section, you're going to lose all, if not a lot of marks, if not all the marks going for working out interest cover. Okay, so there are 3 ratios there. Okay, I've done them on the board. Okay, and I'll show you that in a second. So the question is, advise the bank manager if a loan of €300,000 on which a rate of 6% would be charged should be granted to JB PLC. The loan is to finance the modernisation of their manufacturing plant. Use relevant ratios, percentages, and other information to support your answer. Okay. So, the first thing I would do is take a look at last year's information. Okay, so this is the profit and loss account balance sheet for 2016. These are some ratios from 2015. And generally, a good starting point. This doesn't just relate to gearing, but I would take all of these things and work these out. So from earnings per ordinary share down to dividend yield, work those ratios out. You've already got a few ratios up here, okay? Now some of them are the same. So like in this case, you've been asked to work out dividend yield. You have it there for last year. You've been asked to work out. So, use the questions you've already done. Like by this time you get to part B, you'll have already done rate of stock turnover. You'll have already done dividend yield, earnings per share, return on equity funds, and interest cover. Okay? So if you do the ones you're asked in part A, do the ones that you have last year's figures for, you really wouldn't need to do any other ratios. You really wouldn't. Okay? So that's for people thinking, my God, there's so many ratios, which ones do I do? Do the ones there. They come up nearly all the time, the same ones, and the ones you're asked for in part A. Okay? And as you can see, dividend yield, 3 out of those are actually 1 you've been given already. You're told the rate of stock turnover is 10. I know that's not what you're asked in part A, but you have the answer, is 10. The dividend yield is one of the ones you're asked here. The earnings per share, also one asked here. The interest cover, you're being asked, or you're being given the information for last year here. So the only extra one out of this box that you have to do is the return on equity funds. Okay, so there might be 20, 22, 25 ratios. You really would only have to do about 10. Okay, still a lot of work, I know, but you wouldn't have to do it massively more than that. Okay, so to answer the question, so the question part B, the answer to it is nearly always the same. The only difference will be the last sentence in each part, where you say how that would affect the debenture holders or how it would affect the shareholders. Okay, in this case, it's debenture holder, it's the bank manager, it's a loan. Okay, so the answer I give you now, even if you were asked about a shareholder, you would still do the exact same. Okay, so first of all, what is gearing? Okay, so it's there on page 447, so I'm not going to read through it. But basically, it's, how much of the company's money comes from debt and how much comes from equity. Okay, equity being, okay, and it says it there in the blue box. So your fixed interest or your debt capital are your debentures and your preference shares. Your equity capital, which is the capital the owners have, and put into the business is the ordinary share capital and the reserves. And you can see you have 3 ratios. You really don't need to do the middle one. Okay. When you're given a gearing ratio, let's say for last year, you can see it there is 45%. Okay. That relates to the top one. Okay. The fixed interest capital to total capital. Okay. You can leave out the middle one. Okay. Just the top one and just the bottom one. So just the fixed interest capital to total capital and the interest cover. Now I've done, and you can do them as a ratio or as a percentage, the top 2. The bottom one's always, the interest cover is always in times. So that's how you work them out. So it's loans plus debentures. Now you know your debentures are your loans. You don't have, so it's debentures plus preference shares by 100 over firstly capital employed, and then for equity capital it's your ordinary shares issued plus your reserves. Okay, if you want to leave out the by 100 and have it as a ratio, to be honest, I would do the top one as a percentage and the bottom one as a ratio. Okay, and I'll show you that now. So what I've done on the board is done all 3 ratios. Okay, so, and I've shown what last year's figure was and what this year's figure was. Okay, so the first one that we have, the gearing ratio, the main one is fixed interest capital to total capital. So it's debentures plus preference shares divided by capital employed by 100. So your debentures, as per the book, is 200,000. Okay, you can see it there in your balance sheet. 8% debentures, 200,000 euro. Okay. Then you have to add your preference shares, and it's your preference shares issued. Okay, so no need to work out interest or anything like that. You can see them there. 5% preference shares at €1 each, 150,000. Okay, so that's all you need there. So 200,000 plus 150,000 divided by your capital employed, which, as you know, is always your total of your balance sheet, okay, which is 879,000 euro. Okay, always the very bottom line in the balance sheet. Okay, just so I don't hurt my neck, I'm just going to leave this here. Okay, so the answer when you put that into your calculator comes out as 39.81797497. Okay. Now, with everything, as you're asked even in part A there, you're required to calculate where appropriate calculation should be made to 2 decimal places. Okay, that goes for part B as well as part A. So I've rounded it to 2 decimal places, 39.82%. Last year it was 45%. Okay, now you might think, oh, that's not good. When it comes to gearing, it's the only topic where you say that the lower the figure is, the better. Okay, so what that means is that out of all the money that has been put into the business, 39.82% of that is debt capital, okay, which is either loans or preference shares. Okay, last year was 45%. So there is what, 5.18% less of our money has come from debt, and more of it therefore is coming from capital. So roughly, if you round it to a whole number, 40% of all our money is coming from debt. The other 60% is coming from equity, which is either ordinary shares or reserves. That is a good thing, and that is a good thing that it's gone down. Okay. So again, how you would say that in simple English is, you know, our gearing ratio, because that's basically what that one is. But if you want to give it its full name, particularly if you're given the second one, fixed interest capital to total capital has reduced. Okay, the company is lowly geared. More of its money comes from equity than from debt. Okay, and that's all you have to say. If you decide to do the second one, which is comparing your debt capital to your equity capital, this is how you do it. Okay, so it's your debentures plus your preference shares by 100 divided by your ordinary share issued plus reserves. Okay, I'm going to actually stop this video and continue it because I'm actually running out of space on my phone, so I'm going to delete a bit and I'll come back to you in a second.